Okay, so we want to look at the marketing environment, all right? And our objectives for this discussion is to analyze the forces within the marketing environment that impact marketing strategies, to differentiate between the micro-environmental and macro-environmental factors. We'll also explore the tools for monitoring and adapting to changes in the environment. And then we'll look at the environmental scanning. We'll look at how to perform an environmental scanning, okay, and how to do the SWOT analysis, basically. So if we say the marketing environment, what we are referring to basically are the forces which directly or indirectly influence an organization's ability to market its products successfully. Okay, so if we have the marketing environment, we are looking at all the forces or all the factors which directly or indirectly influence the organization's ability or capability to market its product effectively or to market its product successfully. Okay, so in the marketing environment, we can have two categories. You can have the internal environment and then the external environment. All right, the internal environment are where we can find the factors within the marketing environment which are controllable or which are under the control of the business organization, right? Then the external environment or the external factors, they relate to the part of the environment which is uncontrollable. So what it means is that the business organization cannot really determine what happens within that environment. So if we pick the external environment, we can classify the external environment we can classify them in two groups. So we can have the micro environment and then the macro environment. So broadly, the marketing environment is classified in two: the internal environment and then the external environment. And then within the external environment, we can have the macro or the micro environment. Okay, so the internal environment consists of all the factors which are within the organization or within the control of the organization. So we can consider the company's mission, the vision, and the objectives it has set for itself. And these are such that they can be changed at any time depending on the strategy of the business, right? We can also have the company culture, the company image and goodwill, marketing strategy, the technical capacity of the business, the managerial skills and abilities, the structure and processes within that organization. We can also consider finance and the sales force. Okay, we also have the production and research within that organization. All right, we have the internal processes and procedures, how responsibilities are allocated, okay, resource availability, the attitude of stakeholders, the organization's culture, HR, and finance, accounting. All of those are within the internal environment. And you'll notice that these are factors within the environment that, even though they can influence the marketing strategy of the business, they are also under control. And so the organization can make changes as and when it has to. Okay, so these are under the control of the business organization. All right. Then we have the external environment. The external environment is made up of the micro environment and then the macro environment. So basically, the external environment are factors which are out of the business organization. Okay, they are outside of the business organization, and you will classify them into the micro environment and then the macro environment. right? So each element within the micro environment of marketing directly impacts the marketing strategies, the pricing, the distribution, and the promotional tactics. So you notice that within the external environment, the factors which directly affect the marketing strategies are what we refer to as the micro environment of marketing. So under this, we can have the customers, we can have the suppliers and competitors. Okay, so the customers are referring to the target market, what the target market is and what it really needs, the expectations of the target market, and then its behaviors. All right. It is important that the organization keeps pace with what the customer prefers. Otherwise, it will get out of business. Okay. So one of the factors within the micro environment, which is also part of the external environment, we have the customers. Then we have suppliers. The suppliers, what they do is they influence cost. They influence the quality of product you're likely to come up with because you want to be competitive on the market. And then they also influence the availability of products and materials. It's important to have a very good supplier relationship because that will have an effect, a direct effect on the production you come up with, the quality of products you come up with, and then how you are able to deliver goods to your customer. All right. Then the third factor in the micro environment we consider is the competitor, right? Competitors are rival companies which impact the strategic choices that the organization makes. And it's very important that the business organization monitors the competitor strategies in a way that will allow it to stay competitive on the market. Otherwise, competition will take over. So talking about competitors, there are several types of competitions that can happen within the market or that can be experienced within the market. We have the pure competition. The pure competition is where you have several competitors and all of them are offering mostly the same products, not differentiated. All right. So several competitors offering undifferentiated products. So in this case, no buyer or no seller can exercise market power. Everybody is competing. Okay. Then we have the monopolistic competition, where you have numerous competitors offering products that are similar. And so this prompts their competitors to strive to differentiate their product offering from others. Because if you have everyone giving the same things to the customer, what it means is that you are sharing the market. Okay, so there should be a way that you try to differentiate your product in a way that will cause a competitive advantage on the market. So that's the monopolistic competition, where you have the business organization differentiating its products in a way that makes it the only one on the market with that product. Okay, then we have the oligopoly, where you have a small number of competitors offering similar but somewhat differentiated products. So what this means is that you can have a small number of competitors, all of them have differentiated their products or they are offering some specific product to the customer. All right. And you notice that for the oligopoly, if other business organizations want to come in or if they want to enter the market, it's difficult because the few competitors who are within that sector have differentiated their products. Okay, so it's difficult to have new entrants in the market. Then we have the monopoly, where you have only one supplier. All right, and you have a lot of substantial buyers. Okay, but there's only one supplier. So what happens here is that there are factors that make it difficult for other business organizations to enter the market and do the same thing. Okay. Then you have the monopsony, where there's only one buyer. Okay. So in that case, there's only one buyer, and then you have several suppliers. Okay. All right. So for every business organization, you are likely to face three types of competition. All right. We can talk about the brand competition. You can have the product form competition, and then the desire competition. Brand competition is a competition between various companies producing similar products. Okay, so that is where the brand competition comes in. Of course, if we pick beverage, right, then you want to consider, okay, am I buying from company A or I'm buying from company B, because they are all offering the same product, okay, or similar product. So that's where you have the brand competition. Then you have the product form competition. Okay, the product form competition is a competition between companies which manufacture products that can be that can be substituted for each other. So if we pick coffee and tea, or if we pick if we pick coffee and tea, you notice that one can be substituted for the other. Okay, so that is the product form competition. It's a competition between companies that manufacture substitute products, or products which can be substituted for each other. So in a case where you don't have coffee, you can use tea. All right. Then you have the desire competition, which is the competition where all other companies attract consumers towards the company. Okay, so we can have an example where there's the competition between manufacturers of maybe television sets, okay, or vehicles or washing machines. So this one basically is the desire to be associated with one brand rather than the other. Okay. We now move on to the last part of the micro environmental factors. So we have spoken about the customer, we have spoken about suppliers, we have spoken about the competition or competitors, and then we also have the public. All right. The public refers to various groups within the society. All right. And every company has an obligation not to just meet the requirements of the customer, supplier, and the competitor, right? So not just to consider those three, but also to focus on the various groups within the society. If we say a public is defined as any group that has an actual or potential ability to achieve its objectives. Okay, so we can have examples like the press or the media. Okay, we can have the financial publics, which involves the financial institutions. All right, then we can have government as part of the publics, and then the general public. Okay, so all of these are part of the external micro-environmental factors. Then we look at the macro environmental factors. So for the macro environmental factors, we can have the economic factors, social and cultural factors, technological factors, and then political and legal factors. The economic factors include factors like inflation, employment rates, the consumer's purchasing power, and then things related to the economy within the country where the business is operating. And you will notice that these factors have an influence on how marketing is done for a particular product. Okay, then we have the social and cultural factors, which consider social trends, values, and cultural norms, which shape consumer attitudes and preferences. So where you have your company established determines how successful it's likely to be, because the culture of the people around you and their social preferences, the values that they have, is likely to influence how they view your product. Okay, so we have the social, cultural factors. Then we have technological factors. All right. Now, the advancements in technology have impacted on how marketing is done and how goods are delivered. Okay, so this also has an impact on your marketing strategy. And then we have the political and legal factors. So this includes government policies, regulations, and trade restrictions, which affect market entry and product regulations. All right. So you will notice that within the macro environment, we have the economic factors, the social and cultural factors, the technological factors, and then the political and legal factors. We can give it an acronym PEST. Okay, so if you want to perform an environmental analysis using the PEST, all right, what you do is consider factors within the political environment that will affect your marketing strategy, the factors within the economic environment that will affect your marketing strategy, the social cultural factors which will affect your marketing strategy, and then the technological factors which will affect your marketing strategy. Okay, so in performing the PEST analysis, these are what you are going to look at. You are looking at all of these factors within the macro environment which will affect your marketing strategy. Okay. All right. So you would note that within the environment, things are not static. All right. Things keep changing within the environment, whether internal environment or the external environment. And so it is very important that organizations adapt to changes within the environment. Otherwise, the organization will no more be competitive and will be out of business. Okay, so some of the ways that the organization can adapt to the marketing environment is through product development, okay, where you are trying to come up with innovations to meet the changing customers' needs. Or you can also consider adjusting your prices, where you modify the prices in a way that reflects economic changes. So if there is inflation, of course, you may have to adjust your prices, right? And then another strategy is promotional shifts, where you are likely to use other channels or other emerging channels and platforms to, in a way, respond to technological changes. Okay, so it's very important that business organizations try to adapt to the changing market environment. All right. So there's also what you call environmental scanning, and this is what helps you to monitor, to evaluate and interpret the relevant external factors, and also to anticipate changes and strategize effectively. So yes, we know that the environment changes, but how do you know that the environment is changing, or how do you know that there are changes within the environment, or how are you able to identify when there has been a change in the environment? Okay, so that is when you have to perform the environmental scanning. The environmental scanning helps to identify emerging trends and risks and ensures that the organization takes on a proactive response rather than waiting for things to happen and then it responds to what has happened. Okay, so it gives the organization a proactive stand rather than a reactive response standpoint. Okay, so you can perform a pest analysis using so for conducting the environmental scanning, you can use a pest analysis. We have spoken about the pest, which refers to the political, environmental, social and cultural and technological factors in the external environment. All right. You can also use Potter's 5 forces. We are here to discuss Potter's 5 forces, but this analyzes the industry competition, the threat of new entrants, and then the bargaining power of buyers and suppliers. We'll discuss this in detail as we progress, all right? And then the SWOT analysis, where you consider the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats of the business environment, okay? So if we say the SWOT basically looks at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. So the SWOT analysis is a strategic planning tool which is used to identify internal and external factors that influence a business's success. Okay, so what you do basically is look at the strengths of the business, okay, the internal capabilities. Then you look at the weaknesses, which are the internal limitations, the opportunities, which consider the external factors, and then the threats, which consider the external risks. Okay, so these are what you use to perform the SWOT analysis and also used for the environmental scanning. All right. So what we would say in summary is that both the micro and macro environmental factors shape marketing strategies significantly. And it's very important that every business organization regularly conducts the environmental scanning to enable it to stay competitive. Otherwise, you'll be operating as a business, you'll be going about your marketing activities, and then one day you get up and realize that you are out of business because you were not focusing on what others were doing, what was happening within your environment. Okay. And then we've spoken about the PEST and the SWOT, right? Which helps to identify the company's strategic position and helps it to leverage on risks rather than helps it to leverage on the strengths, all right, and minimize the weaknesses. So you strengthen your strengths, minimize your weaknesses, and then you also are able to check the opportunities out there and minimize the threats or the effects of the threats as they come. Okay, so basically this is what we have discussed today. We'll go into detail when we meet in class, but what you are supposed to do is to perform a scanning of the environment. Okay, so you are supposed to select any one of the companies you used in your first question. Remember the question you had when you were discussing when we did the introduction to marketing. So what you are doing is select any one of those companies, and then you perform a thorough environmental analysis. You are allowed to use any of the two. You can use either a SWOT or the PEST, okay, not the two. You are allowed to use just one. Okay, so you can do a SWOT analysis or the PEST analysis. Thank you all very much. We'll meet again in the next class. Bye-bye.